Travel along, Catholic pilgrims, for 1 year as we read through St. Faustina's diary. Join me, Amy Thomas, each day for a short reading out of the diary which brought us a deeper understanding of Christ's divine mercy. Hello, Catholic pilgrims, and welcome to day 323 of our readings from St. Faustina's diary. Years ago, I was in D.C., and I went to Ford's Theater where President Lincoln was shot. Across the street is the house that he ended up dying in, and it's a museum now. And at the end of the museum, there's this section which is kind of like a room with a ceiling that's extremely tall. And behind this glass enclosure are all the books ever written about Lincoln. And there are hundreds of books. There are just so many you can't even imagine how many books have been written about him. And Lincoln didn't live that long ago. He hasn't even been gone for 200 years. But there are just so many. And this is just an American president who didn't live that long ago, and yet he has so many books written about him. Now think about Christ. He lived over almost 2,000 years ago. And imagine how many books and pieces of paper and scrolls are about Christ and talking about him and thinking about him and going through his life and his mother and the saints. It's got to be so much. We can't even imagine how many things have been written about Christ. More than any other person ever in the history of the world for all time. There's no other God, lowercase God, that could even come close to having the amount of books and papers and all that written about them. No one even holds a candle to Christ. Why is that? Because he's God. And he is the one true God. And we have to remember that as Christians. We cannot reduce Christ down to something else. We have to remember he is God of the universe in all of his majesty, in all of his love and mercy and everything. He is just unbelievably amazing. So that's what we're going to talk about today in Notebook 6, numbers 1602 through 1606. Today the Lord said to me, "Daughter, when you go to confession to this fountain of my mercy, the blood and water which came forth from my heart always flows down upon your soul and ennobles it. Every time you go to confession, immerse yourself entirely in my mercy with great trust, so that I may pour the bounty of my grace upon your soul. When you approach the confessional, know this, that I myself am waiting there for you. I am only hidden by the priest, but I myself act in your soul. Here the misery of the soul meets the God of mercy. Tell souls that from this font of mercy, souls draw graces solely with the vessel of trust. If their trust is great, there is no limit to my generosity. The torrents of grace inundate humble souls. The proud remain always in poverty and misery, because my grace turns away from them to humble souls." February 14th, 1938. During adoration, I heard these words, "Pray for one of the students who has great need of my grace." And I recognized I prayed hard, and God's mercy embraced that soul. When, during adoration, I repeated the prayer, "Holy God," several times, a vivid presence of God suddenly swept over me, and I was caught up in spirit before the majesty of God. I saw how the angels and the saints of the Lord give glory to God. The glory of God is so great that I dare not try to describe it, because I would not be able to do so, and souls might think that what I have written is all there is. St. Paul, I understand now why you did not want to describe heaven, but only said that eye has not seen, nor ear heard, nor has it entered into the heart of man what God has prepared for those who love him. Yes, that is indeed so. And all that has come forth from God returns to him in the same way and gives him perfect glory. Now I have seen the way in which I adore God. Oh, how miserable it is! And what a tiny drop it is in comparison to that perfect heavenly glory. Oh my God, how good you are to accept my praise as well and to turn your face to me with kindness and let us know that our prayer is pleasing to you. Write down everything that occurs to you regarding my goodness. I answered, What do you mean, Lord? What if I write too much? And the Lord replied, My daughter, even if you were to speak at one and the same time in all human and angelic tongues, even then you would not have said very much. But on the contrary, you would have sung in only a small measure the praises of my goodness, of my unfathomable mercy. O my Jesus, you yourself must put words into my mouth that I may praise you worthily. My daughter, be at peace. Do as I tell you. Your thoughts are united to my thoughts, so write whatever comes to your mind. You are the secretary of my mercy. I have chosen you for that office in this life and the next life. That is how I want it to be, in spite of all the opposition they will give you. Know that my choice will not change. At that moment, I steeped myself in profound humility before God's majesty. But the more I humbled myself, the more God's presence penetrated me. O Jesus, my only solace, how frightful is this exile, how terrible this wilderness I have to cross. My soul is struggling through a terrible thicket of all kinds of difficulties. If you yourself did not support me, Lord, there would be no thought of my moving forward. There are many ways that people think about God. Number one is, people don't think anything about him because they're atheists and they don't think he exists. And, to go along with that would be agnostics who don't really know. They're not sure. They haven't been convinced either way. But then there are people who look at Jesus and, the God of Christianity and are like, well, Jesus was, a good guy, one among many great teachers out there. We have other gods that people have followed up and down the ages, and they all have something good to say, good spiritual teachers, and Jesus is one of those, spiritual teachers as well. So, yeah, I'm sure he has some good things to say. There's that thought process that Jesus is just one among many. There are some people who tend to think of Jesus as historical Jesus, where, yeah, that guy who lived a long time ago, back in the day, wore sandals and long tunics, and, he did some pretty cool things, seemed to have a lot of followers. I don't know how he's really relevant today because, he lived so long ago, and I don't know if his teachings really apply today, but I think he had some good things to say, but mostly, he was in the past and we're moving forward. We're progressive people. We gotta move forward, and can't really look to people in the past to guide us. Things were just different back then. Then there's also social justice warrior Jesus. I love this one because we take Jesus and neatly fit him into whatever cause we are championing at that time. Jesus would be for this cause, and Jesus would be for that cause, and Jesus would be for this political party, or Jesus would be for that political party. I can't stand when people say Jesus would be a liberal or Jesus would be a conservative. I always have to remind people that no, Jesus would not fit into our modern day political parties here in America. Jesus is for all time, and he is God, so we can't neatly fit him into our side, our camp. And then there's nice guy Jesus. He's just the guy who throws out love and tolerates everything, and we don't really want too much to do with him, but if you're in a pinch and you need a nice guy to lean on, you might try Jesus. And there's all these different, almost caricatures of Jesus that we create in our heads and that have been developed over time. There's other ones too. I know I'm missing some, but those are the ones that just quickly came to my mind. All of them miss the mark completely, just completely. And this is what we can never do. We can never reduce Christ down to one among many, just a historical guy, a social justice warrior, or just a nice guy. We cannot reduce him down to that. It's so important that we recognize that we are worshiping God, God of the universe, God of mercy, God of love, God who holds us in existence. I think Sister Faustina here today in 1604 really captures the majesty of God. She says, when during adoration I repeated the prayer, Holy God, several times, a vivid presence of God suddenly swept over me, and I was caught up in spirit before the majesty of God. A nice guy, doesn't catch you up in his majesty. She goes on to say, I saw how the angels and the saints of the Lord give glory to God. The glory of God is so great that I dare not try to describe it, because I would not be able to do so, and souls might think that what I have written is all that there is. That is so key right there. God is so great. He is so great that we really honestly cannot describe him. And so to think that when we reduce him down to just historical Jesus or social justice warrior Jesus or nice guy Jesus is adequate is insane. We can't even fathom how great his glory is. We just can't. We don't have words, we don't have the capacity, because we've never experienced in its fullness standing before God in all of his majesty. And we never want to reduce him down into something that's a little easier for us to swallow, a guy who's maybe a little easier for us to, manage in our lives. We can twist Jesus in and out and kind of conform him into what we need him to be in order for us to feel like we can follow him. We can't ever do that, because one day we are going to stand before him and we're going to realize, oh man, I got him really wrong. Really, really wrong. And we don't want to do that. And this is the other thing. If we're going to worship God, why are we trying to worship something that is less than? He is amazing and magnificent and perfect and so good in all of his mercy and love. Why are we trying to package him up into something that is, kind of easy to get behind? We don't want to do that. Don't you want to recognize him in all of his glory? I mean, I sure do. She goes on to say, St. Paul, I understand now why you did not want to describe heaven, but only said that the eye has not seen, nor ear heard, nor has it entered into the heart of man what God has prepared for those who love him. So this is something that we all need to keep in mind. Jesus is not just one among many. He is God, part of the Blessed Trinity. He's not just historical Jesus. Yes, he was here in time and space, and he is a part of history, the most central part of history. But he's more than that as well. And he's not just standing behind some social justice cause. There's more to him. There's a depth and a richness to him that goes beyond any human man-made cause. And he's more than just a nice guy. He is beyond really all description. So that is all for today, Catholic Pilgrims. I will see you back here for day 324. And until then, live the faith boldly and travel well.